Hey buddies, before we start, I want to ask you subscribe and like. Help me to reach 1,000 subscribers. Enjoy the story. He stands alone on a mountain of the slain. His father appears from the blizzard calling out his name. He demands to know why Ash abandoned the eastern expedition. Ash bows his head admitting he returned to strike him down. The older man's crimson eyes narrow at this bold declaration, so Ash plants his sword accusing him of a grand betrayal. He looks up, his own eyes burning with a pained resolve, but his father only mocks the foolishness of his wingless son. This is the story of that son, Ash A. Elmheim. He was born into the great and powerful house of Elmheim. Its head, Roderick, was one of the 7 wing masters. Years ago, Roderick had found him dying in a blizzard. That act of salvation drove him to fight with all his might, yet he always felt he could never truly repay that debt. His own brothers would mock him for being a crestless outcast. He believed he lacked the wings to ever earn his father's respect. That wing crest on his father's back signified immense magic. Without one, his brothers simply called him the Wingless One. Even so, he did nothing but desperately train with his sword. He pushed his body to its absolute limit day after day. He believed that one day his devotion would be rewarded. Then came the day of the Northern Reconnaissance mission. He scouted ahead, sensing something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, their unit was ambushed from the cliffs above. He confronted his father, asking if this was his answer, but Roderick only called him a worthless, unsightly tool. Overcome with despair, Ash raised his sword against him. He realized in that moment how foolish he had been. It was a mistake to have ever believed in the man. His father simply watched him fall with a cruel smirk. His own brothers had bound him with magical chains. They cut him down without a moment of hesitation. He could only scream as their blades tore into him. His brother taunted him for being a wingless failure. They said his place was crawling on the ground. He asked why Roderick saved him only to discard him. His father knelt, saying he never had a use for Ash. Roderick then grabbed him by the hair, forcing him to listen. He revealed he only wanted the power hidden inside him. Ash stared in shock, whispering the words 7 wings. Roderick sneers, saying his mother was a truly useful woman. She had given birth to a seed like him for his sake. He then turns his back, leaving Ash to die in the snow. The memory of his brother's blades falls as he screams for an answer. His life fades away, his hand growing numb from the cold. A single thought crosses his mind as his vision darkens. He wonders what purpose his life had served up until now. Then everything becomes white and faintly warm like an afterlife. He feels a cold breath as he is held in someone's arms. His eyes snap open with the sudden realization this is reality. He finds himself lying in the snow, wondering where he is. He looks down in shock at his own tiny infant body. He raises a small hand, questioning if it is even his. Then the horrifying truth dawns on him that he is a baby. He looks to the woman holding him, wondering if she is dead. Suddenly, a strange power activates within his golden eyes. It shows him a vision of men on horseback searching the blizzard. He hears them shout they must recover the infant for Lord Roderick. The vision fades, leaving him to wonder what he just witnessed. The name triggers the memory of the man who betrayed him. He understands that Roderick is hunting for him, this infant. This snowy night reminds him of how he was first found. He decides to push the impossible thought of regression aside. For now, he knows staying here means capture by the ducal house. So he musters all his strength to escape as soon as possible. A strange golden power surges through his tiny hand as he pushes. But his infant body quickly gives out from the immense strain. His limbs burn with a strange heat as his breath grows heavy. Still, he forces himself to crawl, determined to survive this time. He grits his teeth, vowing that he will absolutely not die again. He must live to one day take everything from Lord Roderick. His small body continues its agonizing crawl through the endless snow. Then his strength finally fails him as he collapses at someone's feet. A young girl's voice suddenly calls out to her approaching father. The man, Viscount Highfried, looks down with a surprised expression. He picks up the infant, questioning why a baby is out here. Exhausted, Ash can only rest his head against the man's shoulder. The Viscount's eyes widen as he examines the child more closely. He then notices the impossibly long melted trail in the snow. Holding the child, he wonders who this mysterious infant could be. I find myself floating in a strange void, wondering where I am. It feels as though this ethereal child came here just to meet me. But the dream of an angel fades as I wake with a groan. I open my eyes to several children excitedly gathered above me. They are all holding me down, and I have no idea what is happening. The girl with white hair just holds me tighter as I struggle. So I push myself away from her with a frustrated grunt. I have to get away, so I start crawling as fast as I can. One of the girls calls out, completely confused by my sudden escape. Now they are all chasing me down the hall, yelling for me to stop. Suddenly, a burst of magic power sends me flying into the air. I tumble uncontrollably, the golden energy still surrounding my body. Then the power fades, and I realize I am falling from the sky. I brace for impact, squeezing my eyes shut in absolute terror. But instead of the ground, I land safely in someone's arms. I look up at my rescuer, and my eyes go wide with shock. I recognize this man as Viscount Hyfried the Duke's older brother. This can only mean I am at the other Elmheim house. He is Hyfried A. Elmheim, head of this branch family. He and his brother were once legendary pillars of the kingdom. But the Viscount I knew died tragically in a civil war. Seeing him alive now confirms I have returned to the past. I cannot believe I escaped one house only to be found by him. A woman holding me asks if my magic sent me flying. She smiles knowing I am certainly no ordinary baby. Then she hugs me close, telling me that I am safe now. I just stare up as a hand gently touches my cheek. It is Viscount Hyfried looking down at me with a soft smile. He says I hold unimaginable power as he reaches toward me. Then he pulls up my sleeve, revealing a strange mark on my arm. He identifies it as the mark of the 7 wings. I stare in disbelief, wondering how this got on my body. The shock of it all triggers a painful memory from my past. I remember the Duke saying he needed the power inside me. He had grabbed me back then, intent on taking it for himself. That was the day he took me from my snowy mountain home. So much for being the wingless child he always called me. Back in the present, the Viscountess looks at me with concern. The Viscount asks her what they should do with me now. I begin to sweat, realizing this situation is very bad. I cannot let this power fall into another Elmheim's hands, but then the Viscount declares he will adopt me as his son. I can only stare up at him in complete disbelief. He then reaches a gentle hand out toward me. He pats my head, saying I am just a fledgling. He promises to raise me until I can fly on my own. His unexpected kindness makes my heart ache with confusion. Suddenly, a loud crash interrupts the quiet moment. We all turn to see his children piled up in the doorway. The oldest girl explains they were just worried about me. One of the younger girls then runs to her mother's chair. She looks at me curiously and asks what my name is. The Viscountess smiles warmly as she considers the question. She holds me to the moonlight and names me Aster. In the blink of an eye, 10 years go by. My father, Lord Hyfried, is greeted at the grand entrance. I open the carriage door and step out onto the stone. I have grown into a young man under his care. Then I turn and offer my hand to my sister Ulfin. She takes it with a familiar and trusting smile. We walk together, ready for what is to come. I follow her as we head toward the main hall. We have arrived at the annual sword dance assembly. It is a gathering for martial nobles to forge connections. But it is also a stage for each house to show off. They present their most promising young swordsmen here. As we enter, I can already hear the whispers around us. The other nobles look down on our family's name. I ignore their scorn, focusing on the grand castle ahead. Ulfin tells me not to let their words get to me. She clenches her fist, warning that weakness is fatal here. I listen to her, keeping my own composure steady. Father appears, noting this is our house's current standing. He gestures to the scene, saying he wanted me to see this. Then he turns and asks if I am disappointed by it all. I just smile, telling him this level of chill is fine. My answer makes him laugh with a sense of relief, but I remember my past life and my humiliating debut here. This time, however, the 7 wings have returned with me. My eyes glow with the power I now command. We continue walking toward the towering castle before us. From a high window, 2 nobles watch our approach with scorn. I feel their stares but keep my expression perfectly calm. Now it is time to walk forward and face them all. I will start with a dazzling debut they will never forget. In an era ruled by knights, duels were grand spectacles. One young combatant fights with fierce, bruised determination. His opponent matches his ferocity. For a knight needed both power and grace. Power was the measure of invincibility in these clashes, while grace, demonstrated in a deft dodge, was the path to fame. The larger opponent leaps forward to press his advantage. They rush towards each other, seeking the one thing that proved both. A decisive blow shatters the red-haired boy's wooden sword. The victor stands triumphant, earning the ultimate symbol, the wing crest. This glowing sigil marks him as a master of the sword. Years later, a man watches a similar scene, noting its intensity. The sight is so fierce it explains why his other daughters refuse to come. But Aster watches the duels with a grim and knowing stare. He remembers the brutal, unglamorous reality behind these sword dances. His sister Ulfin notices his dark mood, calling out his name. He turns to her as she asks if he is nervous for his first festival. He simply smiles, admitting that it feels more nostalgic than anything. His strange answer only leaves Ulfin looking completely bewildered. Their father then announces he must step away for a meeting. Ulfin immediately protests that she is more capable than her clumsy brother. Ignoring her outburst, their father advises Aster to make connections here. He then gives him a quiet, serious warning about the 7 wings. With that cryptic advice, their father turns and leaves them alone. But making connections seems difficult with so many hostile eyes on them. Aster sighs, wondering how he can possibly connect amid such hostility. He turns to leave anyway, prompting Ulfin to ask where he is going. He replies over his shoulder that he is going to make friends. His destination is a group of nobles lounging on a couch below. The red-haired noble on the couch looks up, smugly asking who he is. Aster smiles, saying he has come to meet his brother-in-law Dariz. He introduces himself as Aster F. Elmheim, their little brother. This friendly introduction is met with a cold, unimpressed stare. His friend then leans in, reminding him that Aster is the adopted one. At this, Dara's face twists into a cruel, mocking sneer. He remembers these two legitimate heirs as the ones who killed him before. He recalls how they once seemed terrifying, but that has changed. Now he sees them as just kids pretending to be grown-ups. A golden light flares in his eye as his sister calls his name. She grabs his arm, telling him they are going back now. Suddenly, another voice calls out to her, and her expression darkens. The red-haired noble leans forward, ordering Ulfin to entertain them. She flatly refuses, stating they are not their servants. Aster protests as she pulls him back, insisting he has more to say. His hand tightens firmly around her wrist, stopping her retreat. He looks down with a grim and unyielding expression. Dara's face twists into a demonic sneer, his eyes glowing with malice. He then mocks their father's failure to protect the king during the war. Ulfin winces at the insult, muttering her relief at not sharing his blood. She spins back around, furiously demanding he take back his words. In response, Dariz callously throws his drink directly in her face. He continues his verbal assault, calling her a disappointment to her father. He then offers her another glass, sneering that she should get soaked. Ulfin stands there, humiliated, her white dress stained with purple liquid. Aster steps forward, quietly admitting he was worried on his way here. He thought seeing their faces again would no longer make him angry. He then suddenly shatters a wine bottle he took from the table. Looking at his sister's tear-streaked face, he says that he is glad. He then casually tosses the broken bottleneck into the air toward Dariz. The noble catches the jagged glass with a look of mild surprise. In an instant, Aster closes the distance, declaring him a piece of shit. He then grabs the cup and smashes its contents into Dara's face. In the next moment, he smoothly draws the other brother's sword. He calmly brings a thumb to his lips, wondering if it is just grape juice. With a chilling smile, he adds that it suits a spoiled noble perfectly. 3 years ago, Aster tried to contain an explosive power. His sister cried out, shielding another from the violent outburst. She screamed for him to get himself together, terrified. But the dangerous power of the 7 wings was unleashed. A man watching wondered if such might could be controlled. The boy at the center of it all struggled with the force. That memory fades as an urgent report arrives in the present. A lord is annoyed by the interruption during his talks. The guard reveals the sons of Elmheim are currently dueling. Both lords are stunned into disbelief by the sudden news. The head of the house immediately rises to investigate. He is met by a frantic young woman named Ulfin. He simply points her toward the unfolding spectacle below. They look down upon a rare feud between two brothers. From the balcony, they watch the duel with mixed feelings. Nearby, another nobleman sweats, fearing the potential outcome. A bearded man realizes this gathering could turn ugly. Down below, one brother mocks his opponent's foolish challenge. He proudly displays his family's powerful 4-wing crest. He then taunts the other to reveal his own crest. Aster thinks his brother's pride over a mere pattern is foolish. He smirks, saying he could never do something so shameful. The insult instantly enrages his red-haired opponent. They quickly agree to the high stakes of their duel. With a furious cry, his brother leaps forward to attack. Their swords then meet in a violent clash of steel. The sheer force of the blow sends Aster skidding backward. Blood drips from his hand as he struggles against the pressure. His brother gloats that this is the power of a true heir. He then unleashes a furious barrage of energized strikes. From the balcony, a worried Ulfin screams out Aster's name. Yet the bearded nobleman notes the young lord's immature swordsmanship, but the overwhelming mana from his crest makes up for it. If a single wing's mana is like a simple candle flame, then the power sealed within 4 wings is an explosion. He taunts Aster, asking where his earlier bravado has gone. Aster holds firm, deflecting the blow as his brother mocks him. His opponent pushes harder, demanding to see his real power. Watching from above, a lord believes the match is decided. But down below, the brothers remain locked in their struggle. His brother's face twists in shock at this sudden reversal. But Aster coolly tells him that he talks far too much. He then shatters their deadlock with a powerful sweeping strike. A brilliant golden aura now surrounds him as he stands firm. For years, he secretly learned to control mana for this moment. He waited patiently for the perfect chance to take his revenge, so he unleashes a furious barrage of his own energized attacks. The overwhelming assault immediately forces his brother to one knee. Watching from above, a lord realizes Dariz is being pushed back. The proud heir of Elmheim is now completely on the defensive. He screams in denial, reminding everyone he has 4 wings. Yet Aster's cold golden eyes show he is utterly unimpressed. The other nobles murmur in disbelief at this one-sided outcome. The sheer scale of his power completely engulfs his opponent. They wonder how House Elmheim could possess such a hidden talent. Aster channels his immense energy, preparing for a final blow. On the balcony, their father grimly realizes this has gone too far. Dariz grits his teeth, straining against the overwhelming golden force. A dark memory of a laughing killer suddenly flashes through Aster's mind. That traumatic vision fuels a terrifying explosion of pure rage. The golden energy intensifies, terrifying Dariz, who begs him to stop. From the balcony above Ulfin echoes the plea screaming his name, but her cry is lost in a sudden violent eruption of power. Yet their father remains stoic, his expression grimly unchanged by the chaos. The brilliant light fades and Aster's sword clatters onto the stone floor. His blade now rests inches from his terrified fallen opponent. He coldly tells his cousin to wear something he can get soaked. He then turns away, declaring he is no longer Ash the Wingless. Ulfin leans over the railing, her eyes wide with pure adoration. That realization is enough to clear his mind for the moment, but his focus suddenly shifts to a menacing red aura below. His golden eyes widen in shocked recognition of the familiar power. It emanates from the very man who haunts his dark memories. A single name escapes his lips with dawning horror: Rodri. The crowd murmurs that a Viscount's son defeated the main family's heir. He knows this has become a mess that will not end quietly. He simply stands his ground with a hardened, determined gaze. But his defeated cousin laughs as the head of the Elmheim family arrives. The imposing figure of Duke Rodri now confronts the young victor. His father's face is a mask of pure cold fury, yet the young man meets that powerful gaze without a hint of fear. The defeated son begins to scramble across the broken stone floor. He desperately grabs his father's leg, crying out to him for help. Then he points, accusing the filthy half-breed of defying their family. He pleads for his father to use his power to punish him. In response, the Duke brings his boot down with crushing force. His own son looks up in agony as his hand is shattered. The onlookers can only stare in absolute horrified shock. The Duke coldly asks why a loser is shaming their family name. He grinds his boot down, saying one who cannot avenge himself. An older man screams desperately for Rodri to stop this punishment. Has no right to hold a sword and so raises his own blade, but the victor intercepts the blow, stopping the Duke's execution. He states his cousin still has not apologized to his sister yet. He asks his uncle to save the punishment for after that. But the Duke scoffs, calling him a mere orphan of Highfried. He retorts that his father taught him about a knight's pride. Duke Rodri glares in silence as his family watches from above. Then he grabs the blade, accusing him of disgracing his family's honor. The Duke demands to know what price he is willing to pay. He clarifies it was a legitimate duel to defend his house. The Duke's furious expression remains completely unmoved by his words, so the boy boldly repeats his uncle's own creed back at him. From the balcony, his sister watches the scene with growing dread. A nearby spectator smirks, noting the defiant boy is only 10. The Duke's eye twitches as he processes the young man's words. He simply says, "I see," and then draws his own sword. He then commands the young challenger to take his fighting stance. The boy immediately readies his blade, his gaze sharp and focused. In a brilliant flash, their two swords meet with explosive force. His sister covers her mouth, her eyes wide with abject terror. The Viscount roars his brother's name in fury from the balcony. He then leaps into the air, descending with a glowing scythe. His weapon intercepts the Duke's, protecting his son from the blow. The force of their impact sends a shockwave across the hall. His father lands, desperately calling out to see if he is all right. As the dust settles, it reveals the shattered and frozen floor. The Viscount stares in disbelief at what his son just endured, yet the boy remains standing, his grip tightening on his sword. A fierce golden light burns within his blood-streaked gaze. From a high balcony, a powerful figure watches with keen interest. He then turns his head, his decision apparently made. The regal man leaps down towards the center of the conflict. His sudden arrival catches the Viscount completely by surprise. The father quickly rushes to his son's side to support him. Aster looks up, telling his father that he kept his promise. His father agrees with pride, saying he was truly magnificent. Meanwhile, the mysterious noble calmly descends the main staircase. He approaches the Duke, calling his recent actions rather childish. A younger man retorts that the main family's honor was at stake, but the spectators now see a rising star who survived the Duke. Other guests murmur that the boy's debut was certainly impressive. The powerful noble knows an era of great upheaval will soon come. He foresees a storm fierce enough to shatter the entire world. A bright blue energy slices through the open sky. This victory was a refreshing turn against the main family. He remembers establishing his presence at the sword dance assembly. He hopes this display will silence those who mock his family, but his true goal is to test his strength against the main house. He wanted to push his limits further on that grand stage, but he knows he cannot defeat Rodri at his current level. He knows a wing crest is merely an indicator of magical tier, and that inborn magic is wasted without proper mastery. Yet he still cannot draw out the power of the 7 wings without losing control, so for now he continues his relentless training. His eyes burn with the intensity of his resolve. The result is a field of defeated men as he calls for more. His challenge is answered by a voice noting his intensity. The voice belongs to a red-haired girl who chides him for his lack of restraint. He acknowledges the summons from his father and walks away from the training grounds. As he gets closer, his attention is suddenly caught by her outfit. She turns her head, slightly questioning his sudden observation. He remarks that it is rare to see her in it, recalling she used to hate it. She explains that watching him made her realize she cannot remain stagnant either, so she suddenly takes hold of his wooden training sword. She declares that they will spend plenty of time together when he returns. Her determined words bring a warm smile to his face. He jokingly asks her to please go easy on him then. Later he arrives at an ornate door and raises his hand to knock. Announcing his presence, he opens the door into a brightly lit office. His father looks over from his seat, inviting the boy to sit down. Aster takes a seat on the plush chair, waiting expectantly. The man begins by noting 10 years have passed since they welcomed him home. He admits he wanted to wait longer, but now places an item on the desk. On the table rests a brilliant red jewel on a small blue cushion. His father explains that it is the proof of the family's next head. He then formally asks Aster to succeed the house of the Viscount. He continues by explaining the delicate position their family is currently in. He states that as a branch family they carry the Elmheim name. Therefore, he cannot leave the seat of the next head vacant forever. Aster immediately worries, asking if his sisters are okay with this. His father explains they will return from the academy in 3 days. The boy thinks of his 2 sisters Martha and Kudo coming back. He knows they will not be happy, especially his sister Kudo. His father sadly agrees, noting she resents Aster's birth and power. This solidifies the boy's resolve as he refuses to accept the position. He turns away, calling himself the brat who almost killed his sister. He confesses he lacks the confidence to persuade his furious sisters. His father looks at him, remarking he sometimes doubts Aster is a child. He then reveals he intended the ring as a reward for his performance, but he now presents a different gift he thinks Aster will prefer. Aster's eyes widen in disbelief as he recognizes what it is. The box contains the magic sword Gram, a blade that eats magic. My father leads me down a secluded forest path, deciding this place is fine. So I ask why we could not stay at the dojo, but he says this is just in case. He reminds me that I have a tendency to destroy the house. Then he presents the demonic blade Gram brought back just for me. His hand tightens on the hilt, preparing to draw the sword. The sudden gravity of the moment leaves me completely stunned. But he reveals only a hilt, making me question if it is even a sword. He then pours his magic into it and a violent red blade erupts. It is a potential blade completed by its wielder's magic power. He demonstrates its might with a single devastating overhead swing. The force of his attack carves a powerful vortex through the forest, yet he warns that the sword has a dark reputation for draining its user. He offers the hilt to me, asking if I want to try it. I accept his challenge, placing my hands firmly over his on the grip. I resolve to pour my magic into the sword and golden energy erupts. The power flares uncontrollably from the hilt in a blinding flash. I realize with a shock that my magic is flowing into it on its own. This uncontrollable energy shoots a thin beam of light high into the sky. 2 guards see it, one thinking it was a comet falling from the sky. His companion corrects him as a red-haired woman listens nearby. The woman murmurs to herself that the power must be mine. Back in the forest, I laugh in amazement at the unbelievable sword in my hands. My father's stern face interrupts my joy as he asks what is so unbelievable. He clarifies that what is truly unbelievable is the power I possess. He reveals that no one in our bloodline's history has ever borne the crest of the 7 wings. If I fully master this power, I will surpass even him and Lordric. The thought of surpassing a man of such legendary stature leaves me stunned, but he warns me that power this great will inevitably give birth to conflict. That conflict will begin once the world learns that I possess the 7 wings. He describes a future where some will envy me and others will resent me. Some will scheme to use me, while others will try to eliminate me as an obstacle. He holds out his hand, telling me this is so I will not regret being helpless later. His gaze is firm as he urges me to grow strong now. I grasp his hand tightly, determined not to repeat my miserable past life. I thank my father, promising to master both the 7 wings and this sword. 3 days later, we stand in the foyer as my father welcomes 2 people home. My sister Kudryavka announces her return alongside a silver-haired woman. She then opens her arms wide, calling for a reunion hug from her little sisters. Instead, they rush right past her to embrace the other woman, Malfa. Kudryavka is left standing alone in the hall, completely ignored. Malfa smiles as the twins explain that Kudryavka always messes up their hair. Kudryavka scoffs at the accusation, thinking her refined chivalry would never permit it. Her gaze then falls upon our other sister, Ifni, standing quietly nearby. She rushes over, pulling Ifni into a crushing and enthusiastic hug. Her affection quickly turns rough as she traps a protesting Ifni in a headlock. Malfa watches them for a moment before asking our parents where I am. My father simply begins to answer, his expression knowing. At the mention of my name, Kudryavka's face turns serious. The scene cuts to my training, where Gram's power erupts violently. I struggle to stand against the sheer force of the vortex. Gritting my teeth, I admit to myself that it is still no good. I can form the blade, but suppressing its energy is all I can manage. The raw power continues to tear through the clearing around me. A voice suddenly comments on how flashy my training is. I turn to see Kudryavka, who chides me for not greeting her. My sister smirks, finding my simple welcome to be awfully cold. She asks if I think I am too special to show emotion now. I counter that I have heard she is already excelling on missions as a trainee. She was even the sole recipient of the honorary Platinum Order medal. Kudryavka confirms this, stating it is necessary to inherit father's position. She then asks me why I declined the matter of succession. I explain that I was not trying to spare her the trouble. I simply believed I lacked the necessary qualifications for now. She turns away, muttering about how cruel both I and father are. She calls us cruel for knowing full well what her dream is. Her words leave me completely bewildered by her sudden hostility. Without warning, she unleashes her own magic into a blade of light. Her powerful swing fells the massive tree in a single blow. The impact sends me leaping back to avoid the falling debris. I land in a crouch, shouting at her for the sudden attack. She stands calmly in the clearing, ready to test my abilities. With a confident grin, she declares her next strike will be serious. I try to stop her, explaining that my sword is still incomplete. She dismisses my plea, asking if an enemy would accept that excuse. Her cold logic leaves me speechless and unable to respond. She takes her stance, warning that she will crush me if I hold back. I know I am barely managing to control my magic as it is, but I have no choice if she truly intends to kill me. Just then another figure intercepts her attack with their own blade. The forest canopy explodes as two figures clash below. She compliments his swordsmanship, impressed he can keep up, but he counters, questioning the power of her blade. She presses the attack, mocking his poor control over magic. He grits his teeth, thinking Kudryavka is as merciless as ever. He remembers she has always been this way towards him. Their rivalry began when they were children over the succession. He was the male heir, but she was special with a superior crest. She used any excuse to challenge him, his natural enemy. That memory fuels the present as her next attack slams down. He acknowledges her strength, thinking it is just as expected. So he meets her power with his own in a blinding clash. She screams that he is not fit to lead their family. Elsewhere, their mother watches with concern from a window. She fears this sibling quarrel could end in tragedy. But their father believes they are simply excellent rivals. She remains unconvinced, only hoping that he is right. Then she asks why he recalled them from the Night Academy. He confirms her suspicion and reaches into his desk drawer. Her eyes widen in shock at what he has just revealed. He presents a letter sealed with the crest of the main family. It is a summons from the elders who wish to meet their grandchild. She understands immediately that this is a very serious matter. Her husband grimly explains the potential consequences of this meeting. In the worst case, he fears they might lose Aster. But outside, Aster screams that he already refused the succession. His sister retorts that his refusal is what infuriates her. She channels that fury into a strike of incredible weight. He feels as if he is fighting a troll with a hammer. The immense force of her blade drives him steadily backwards. He twists away, desperately trying to get her to listen. She merely scoffs, accusing him of running away from her. Then she unleashes another devastating blast of energy at him. He barely withstands the insane brute force of her attack. Her sword slams into the earth as she begins to lecture. She claims that simply controlling magic makes one second-rate. Only by mastering the demonic sword can one be first-rate. She looks at him with pity, calling him a disappointment. She explains their crests determine the magic they can handle. Yet she admits her 5 wings are inferior to his 7. She accuses him of avoiding a direct contest of strength. Then she viciously asks if he is simply too weak, or perhaps she taunts he is afraid of losing control. Her words strike a nerve, forcing him to question himself. He wonders if he has been unconsciously limiting his own power. This suppression might explain why his magic has been so unstable. Kudryavka seethes, declaring he has everything she ever wanted. She decides to claim that fortune if he plans to waste it, so she lunges forward, screaming for him to hand it all over. He can only brace himself for the overwhelming magical assault. The resulting impact sends a massive shockwave through the forest. Yet she is stunned to find he completely neutralized her attack. With glowing eyes, he thanks her for finally waking him up. He then charges forward wildly, without even forming a proper blade. She stumbles back, shocked by his inexhaustible supply of magic. He raises his sword, tapping into the power of the 7 wings. Then he unleashes it all in a single, overwhelming instant. She can only smirk, impressed that the half-wit finally learned. He quietly reflects on this second life he has been given, and he vows never to waste it or the power within. He remembers having his family and the sword, yet feeling utterly empty. His sister looks on in shock, questioning what he means by a second life. That is precisely why he now forges his chaotic energy into a blade. He swings the crimson weapon with a fierce and focused resolve. Her own magical sword begins to vanish against his overwhelming assault. He decides in that moment that he is no longer holding back. Then he unleashes a devastating wave of pure demonic power. Her eyes snap open with a sudden jolt. She recognizes the sunlight streaming into her own room. Then a gentle voice asks if she is finally awake. It is Sister Marfa, calmly noting she took her time waking. The memory hits her and she sits up asking about Aster. Marfa smiles, recalling how Aster carried her here himself. He told everyone she simply fell asleep from exhaustion, but she looks down quietly, admitting that is not true. She recalls the final instant certain he was cutting her down, yet in reality he dispelled the magic blade at the last second. The shock of the residual magic was enough to overwhelm her. She knows now that her brother would never truly harm her. Yet in that one moment his intent felt absolutely lethal. A faint smile touches her lips. He is such a disagreeable brother. Then she grabs her sword, demanding to know where he is. She stands shouting that she refuses to accept that result. She vows to use her full power, but Marfa says he has already departed. The words stop her cold, her anger turning to shock. He received a summons from the main family and left with their father. This information leaves her with a sudden sense of dread. She cries out in disbelief, shouting that no one told her. Meanwhile, a lone carriage makes its way toward the capital. Aster sits within, quietly watching the city pass him by. His father explains they are meeting the former family heads. These influential figures are known as the Shadow Rulers. He wonders why they would summon Aster now after years of silence. Aster speculates that it must concern the Sword Dance Festival. He recalls that the elders value the family's honor above life. Those who stain that honor are cast into a beast's cage. His father, stunned, asks where he heard such a dark story. But Aster just smiles, saying he is prepared for any fate. The man then asks if he is sure about leaving so suddenly. Aster insists it is for the best, as he planned to go. He believes his sister will be able to breathe easier now. Still, her help allowed him to finally begin grasping his sword, so he asks his father not to save him from what is coming. His father scoffs at this talk of surviving on his own. Their tense conversation is suddenly cut short by a disturbance. Aster's eyes fly wide open in complete and utter surprise. He sees his sister Kudryavka keeping pace right outside his window. His father stares in disbelief, wondering how she ran this far. She leaps onto the carriage, asking how he could be so cruel. Inside, she tells her father she knows about the elder's summons. She sits beside Aster, stating she understands the situation perfectly. But this level of caution means the family is in serious trouble. She recalls Marfa's warning that he may never return from this. Aster tries to reassure her, though he privately doubts his own safety. She points a finger at him, declaring that she absolutely despises him. He listens as she lists his status and special treatment as reasons. She despises his strength and the way he pretends to be an adult. But despite all that, he is still her precious little brother. She tells him he is defenseless and must return for their rematch. With a confident smile, she refuses to let him win by default. Then she leaps from the moving carriage back onto the cobblestones. Aster watches her go as his father calls her quite the rival. A small, genuine smile forms as he quietly thanks his sister. She waves at the distant carriage, certain he will return. Lord Highfried and the boy are welcomed home at the gates. They are met by a line of guards at attention. Highfried dismisses the need for a guide, but is firmly denied. He is escorted under guard, wondering about this strange welcome. However, the boy's knowing smirk suggests he understands everything. He looks up at the ominous manor, thinking how long it has been. As they walk, Highfried confirms that Aster already grasps the situation. He then warns the boy to keep his cool today. Highfried knows that the other party is the real problem here. He leans in to give Aster a final, careful warning, but his attention is stolen by a bully in the courtyard. The boy's focus has clearly drifted from his father's words. He snaps back with a smile, assuring his father he heard. Aster promises to remain calm, remembering his sister's parting wish. A guard then announces their arrival to the entire throne room. They walk the long hall toward a voice unheard for 10 years. The man on the throne finally looks upon his grandson, Highfried. Highfried immediately kneels, formally addressing the sixth head of the family, but the old man corrects him, demanding a more personal title. Aster, however, sees only the monster lurking in Elmheim's shadows. This is Zenith Elmheim, the family's imposing sixth head. And with him are the leading figures under his banner. Aster recognizes several faces from the Sword Dance Festival. Yet his eyes search the room for one person in particular. The old man answers his unspoken question from the throne. He explains Rodri is with the commander of the Royal Knights. Zenith claims such a man has no time for trivial matters. Aster realizes he never even saw this commander in his past life, but he sees the considerable influence Zenith wields in his retirement. Highfried, however, questions what his father deems so trivial. Zenith coldly reminds him of the disgrace caused by his pet dog. The boy's suspicions are immediately confirmed by his grandfather's words. His father tries to explain that Rodri already settled the issue. But that was merely a performance for the disapproving public. Now the family's tarnished reputation demands a punishment for Lord Highfried. So Aster suddenly stands and shouts, taking all the blame himself. He insists that his father had nothing to do with it. Lord Highfried closes his eyes, pained by his son's outburst. From the throne, a cold voice notes his lack of training. Zenith then reminds everyone of the 12,000 knights they command. He explains that not all who bear the Elmheim name are united. His gaze falls upon the ambitious men watching from the court. The old man taps his staff, demanding proof the boy is not a threat. He then suddenly thrusts the scepter toward Lord Hyfried's face. Zenith reminds him of this very weapon and his greatest failure. He recalls forcing Roderick to sever his own arm for that past disgrace. Now with eyes burning red, he orders Hyfried to behead the boy. But Lord Hyfried, still kneeling, firmly declines the horrific command. Aster watches as his father vows to die before killing his own child. The sixth head merely scoffs at this defiant display of loyalty. In that case, he slams his staff violently into the throne room floor. Zenith sentences Hyfried and his entire family to death for this insubordination. At his word, the surrounding knights draw their swords on them. But Aster's calm voice cuts in, asking why his great-grandfather is afraid. Zenith glares down as the boy calls the trembling adults pathetic. With blades at his throat, Aster tells him to just issue the punishment. He grips his cravat, warning Zenith not to touch his family. Lord Hyfried can only stare in disbelief at his son's audacity. A powerful blue aura erupts from Aster as he apologizes for his outburst. The nearest guard stammers in fear at the sudden surge of energy. His aura reveals a glowing red wing crest branded upon his back. Zenith recalls the ancient law that these 7 wings mark an enemy of Elmheim. The boy's glowing eyes narrow as he warns him to think it over carefully. The old man stares in disbelief at the legendary 7 wings crest. Another noble is stunned but admits the crest is undoubtedly real. The old man finally addresses the boy standing before the court. He asks if he truly understands the meaning of the symbol he displays. The young man smirks, knowing that more wings simply means more surprise. From a nearby throne, a white-haired noble suddenly bursts into laughter. He waves a hand, dismissively apologizing and telling the old man to continue. So the elder begins explaining the crest as a magic organ gifted by ancient spirits. This power was passed down through generations, allowing humanity to grow stronger. However, no one has ever manifested 7 wings except for the progenitor spirit clan. The young man looks up, asking if they are calling him a member of that clan. The old man turns his back, stating that if his 7 wings are genuine, then he must be the son of the Viscount whose body lies on the floor. But the boy insists his lineage does not matter at this point. He warns that even if exiled, many other nobles would welcome his power. In fact, he would become a dangerous figurehead capable of inciting rebellion. His direct threat sends a ripple of shock through the other nobles. He knows for a fact that a massive war is coming to engulf the entire country. To survive, he must take risks now to identify his enemies and his allies. The old man's eyes glow red as he scoffs at the boy's perceived worth. He declares there is no proof that the 7 wings are real. The young man smirks, daring him to try and kill him. He clenches his fist, wondering if the old man will take the bait. His hand trembles with anticipation for the elder's next move. The white-haired noble then interjects, stating they are going in circles. He slyly suggests that they impose a trial on the boy. Count Maze asks the others if they truly wish to see his power. He argues they can decide the boy's fate after the test. The boy turns, asking if they have a trial ground available. He recognizes that this man, Count Maze, is on his side. The young man now realizes he has found a powerful ally. The old man agrees with a laugh and tells him to follow. He claims it is a grandfather's duty to correct his grandson. They soon arrive at a dark gate leading to the trial grounds. Beyond it lies a vast underground bunker with a large cage. His trial is to defeat the single magic beast kept inside. A memory surfaces of his guardian telling him to keep his power secret, but he knew he could not hide something so flashy forever. The man's final words of caution echo in his mind. He grabs a chain and begins his descent into the darkness. From above, Count Maze watches the descent with a confident smile. The boy's feet finally splash into the cold, murky water. But the darkness is no obstacle for his glowing eyes. He looks up as the old man's voice echoes from above. The elder explains the last man here screamed until the end. Now the boy stands before the very beast that killed him. He unsheathes a short sword, preparing to face his opponent. As the monster roars, the old man declares the trial has begun. He stands before the beast, realizing the rumors are all true. He pities anyone who was born into this monster-infested house. But the creature lunges at him with a furious roar. He evades its powerful attacks with a blur of impossible speed. His captors can only stare on in complete shock. He stands over the beast, declaring he fears his sister more. Then his confident expression suddenly breaks into utter disbelief. He watches in horror as tentacles sprout from the beast's back. It rises once more with a horrifying roar, revealing it is undead. A captive nobleman demands to know why an undead is in the mansion. The master explains he released it knowing it seeks the smell of death. He adds that its immortality makes it a perfect starving guard. Thanks to the creature, he no longer has trouble disposing of corpses. Another captive worries they are simply letting the boy die. The man admits he once dismissed the boy's title as empty boasting, but down in the pit, Aster is not yet defeated. The master reassures him that the boy's death would be convenient. From another cell, a young man with white hair watches silently. He reflects on the incredible promise Aster has already shown. He silently urges him not to die as Aster unleashes his power. He realizes his constant slashes are having no real effect. The creature's regenerative power is simply too astonishing to overcome. He clenches his fist, wondering how to kill the undead. He recalls they must be burned or purified with holy weapons. But without those options, he knows fighting is just common sense. Yet with no retreat, he decides simple tricks are meaningless. To show his true worth, he prepares his ultimate attack. He resolves to crush the creature with overwhelming power. The resulting impact shatters the stone floor of the pit. Thrown back, a nobleman gawks at the power of the seven wings. Other captives shout, wondering if he finally defeated it. Their captor, however, simply scoffs from his perch above. As the dust settles, Aster stands alone in the crater. The master looks down on the scene, calling it a pity. A massive paw suddenly smashes through the smoke toward him. It slams him violently into the hard ground below. The undead beast then pins him beneath its massive weight. From his cell, the white-haired man screams Aster's name in horror. A woman nearby calmly tells Lord Highfried not to do anything stupid. He glares, asking if she expects him to just watch him die. The woman calmly tells the frantic nobleman to settle down. She observes from her cell that Aster still has a trump card. Pinned below, Aster smiles, glad his last resort is actually working. The beast's body burns with red flames, looking slimmer than before. He grits his teeth, pushing back with a surge of crimson energy. With all his might, he forces his sword into the monster's jaw. The blade rips through its mouth, spraying dark blood everywhere. He screams that he will just keep attacking until it finally dies. A furious storm of red slashes erupts from his position. The master recognizes the technique as one he has only seen once. He wonders if this incredible display of power is something different entirely. The sheer force of the attack causes the floor above to collapse. As the platform crumbles, the master orders the elders to evacuate. One elder stares into the pit, finally understanding what he is seeing. This is the unleashed power of the legendary Seven Wings. It is a force wielded by the most powerful individuals alive. The dust settles around the stunned official on the ground. From the ledge above, the elder scans the empty arena. His glowing red eyes narrow with a startling realization. The boy had crushed the undead with pure magical force. He looks up, wondering if this is the Seven Wings' power. Even the elder admits this astonishing display was not his plan. The boy's father confesses he is also amazed by his son's growth, so another man asks the elder if the boy passed the exam. With a grunt, the elder doubts anyone here has an objection. The man happily calls down that Aster has officially passed. But he notes the chains were destroyed in the powerful blast. Aster just smiles and asks if they can drop a rope. Later, a patriarch asks from his chair if he is certain. Aster confirms he has no interest in the family succession war. He insists his place is only within the Viscounty for now, but the old man sees the ambition burning in his eyes. He accuses Aster of planning to turn his blade against Elmheim. He then asks if it is Roderick's head that he is after. The patriarch laughs, telling the boy not to be so guarded. Aster is confused, asking why rebels are not his enemies. The patriarch explains that their own faction is not a monolith. He reveals that within it, Roderick has grown far too headstrong. So he warns Aster to serve him, but never to turn against him. Leaving the room, Aster mutters about the monstrous old man of Elmheim. His father asks what was said, and Aster reports he refused their offer. The Viscount stares back at his son, shocked by this revelation. But another man approaches them, calling the decision a real shame. Count Mays notes he could have had a much more comfortable life. Aster then asks why the Count offered to help him before. The man smirks, saying he just felt like teasing a cheeky brat. He then puts a hand on Aster's shoulder, changing the subject. The Count tells him to just look at the others watching them. He explains how the other Seven Wings members now see him. The crest he now bears carries prestige and attracts unwanted attention. Aster asks if the Count is also one of those people. The man reveals he is a director at the Knight Academy. He then points out that others are also scouting for talent. The Count waves goodbye, looking forward to seeing Aster at school. Aster wonders if this hard-to-read man could ever be an ally. His father adjusts his collar and asks if they can go home. The Viscount puts a proud hand on his son's shoulder. Aster smiles, joking that their mother will faint at his injuries. Elsewhere, a knight reports to his lord in a throne room. The lord asks what happened to Highfried's son at the summons. His knight notes the man's lack of concern for his own child. The lord clasps his hands, realizing the Seven Wings are real. Surprised, the knight asks if his master already knew this. He warns that Elmheim's long-held power balance could soon collapse. So the knight asks if they should take immediate action now, but the Lord Roderick tells him to leave the boy alone. He argues that Elmheim would have fallen long ago if so weak. He confidently states there is no need to rush things. Until then, he will simply enjoy watching the boy struggle. His red eyes burn as he names the child of the Seven Wings. 4 years later, applicants gather for the Knight Academy exam. An official at the reception desk hurries the line of students. A new arrival catches the eye of two men in the crowd. They whisper about the rumors, surprised by his slender build. The applicant places his hand on a liability waiver to sign. An official then asks him to present his wing crest as proof. The official formally addresses the applicant as Aster F. Elmheim, but the powerful surname he just spoke gives him pause. Aster turns his back, casually noting his crest is hard to show. He then smirks, asking if his face can be his pass instead.